All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely proud and honored for this show that's being kicked off. And I want to introduce everyone to the Atlanta Placement Coalition. There is quite a number of us, but today we have a handful that's going to come on here and share their experiences, their views, their passions, tell about their companies and the difference that collectively all try to make out here into the marketplace. So, to get things started, I am your host, Mark Little. I am the founder of CareQuest Solutions. We try to guide the conversation, the decisions that families are having to make with compassion and empathy, living that with my own families, like a lot of the ladies have went through with their own families. So this begins with empathy and personal experiences. I want to give a shout out to Leah Krushka. She was scheduled to be on the show, but we all put families first, and she had an emergency situation that came up, and totally respect her taking the time to go pay attention to do what we do, and that is to make a difference and impact the lives of families that we help. So let's get this party started and let everyone introduce themselves. So, Amy, take it away.
Hey, well, good afternoon, Mark. First of all, thank you so much for having us on and giving us an opportunity and a platform to tell how the local is better. And excited to be a part of it. Hans and Amy Henschel founded Senior Provisions in 2011, over 13 years ago. I say Victoria, when she introduces herself, we're kind of the OG. And there's many more of us now, but we were some of the first that were local out in the Atlanta market. And we all do very similar things. We help families in a very personalized way. We have been blessed with a team of advisors here in Metro Atlanta, and they help families navigate through all the different levels of care. Over the 13 years, our real cornerstone of our company has been our education. So we do a tremendous amount of speaking out with lots of different groups, and run monthly support groups and caregiver workshops. So we're excited to be here and excited to talk about what makes us different as local agencies.
And glad you are here. Congratulations on 13 years. That's quite the accomplishment. That's a lot of water under the bridge, so they say, right?
And it's my lucky number. So it's been a good year.
Yeah. Victoria, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be on with Amy and with Kelly. Amy, I'm coming up right behind you at 10 plus years and counting in the business. I'm Victoria Archibald. I'm a certified senior advisor and owner of Care Patrol of Metro Atlanta. Care Patrol is a national placement organization, and we have 4 offices here in the Metro Atlanta area serving all of Atlanta. And it's just, for us, it's all about making sure that we're finding the safest care options for the families, for seniors, and their families that we serve. I've been blessed to be able to do this work for over 10 years now, and truly enjoy interacting with the families, interacting with seniors, helping them find a solution to their care issues, and doing it in a way that brings compassion and expertise and knowledge, and with someone that's trustworthy and that they know that they can depend on in the time of need. So very happy to be on your show, Mark. Thank you for this platform. Very happy to be one of the co-founders of the Atlanta Placement Coalition, and just excited to be able to explain to your audience more about what we do here locally, and how we collaborate together to serve more families in our local area. Thank you.
And I am glad you're here. Congratulations on those 10 years. I like what Amy said. Y'all the OGs. So you've seen a lot of stuff along the way. Kelly, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Mark, for having us. And thank you, Amy and Victoria, for your many years of service. And I am privileged to work alongside of you in the North Metro Atlanta area and serve our families. I am coming up on my third anniversary as of August 1st, so I'm very excited to go into my third year. I feel like I'm the toddler of the group, if you will, but very excited nonetheless. I started Oasis Senior Advisors. We are also, as Victoria is a national placement service serving many metro areas. I came into this business as an adult child, navigating all of the resources and options for my dad, who was living with Alzheimer's back in 2019, and really left such a profound mark on our family that when I was considering a career change in early 2021, I knew I wanted to do something to help families sift through all of the muck, if you will, of what is kind of good, bad, and ugly of not only senior living but resources as well, and just really be a guiding force to help families navigate all of the things and all of the challenges that they face day to day, and beyond just finding a home solution, but really try to focus on the holistic need of the family.
Excellent. And thank you for being here. Congratulations on your 3 years. And let me ease your mind, Kelly. It's kind of interesting that I grew up as the baby of the family with 3 older sisters. So here I am here with 3 lovely ladies. I'm the baby and I'm only 2 years in. So I take the prize away from you from being the newbie on the block. But that's why I'm honored to be here amongst this group with all the experiences and you guys that have paved the path, so to speak. As a group, and Victoria and Amy, you guys being a part, I'm not sure, Kelly, if you were or not, but if I am, apologize for being kind of the spearhead of putting together the Atlanta Placement Coalition. So with that being said, we do have some standard practices that we all try to live by. Anybody that is accepted as a member of the coalition, it's not just anybody and everybody. It's the owners of the companies that have the same heartbeat, the same goal, the same heart, all those things. So with that said, we're each going to take a quick moment and share one of the standard, let's see, let me pull mine up here. Of our standard practices. So one of the ones that we do have is members will make the needs of the client the first priority for any referrals. Prior to making the referral, members will conduct a thorough discovery of needs that aligns with the informed recommendations. And just to quickly kind of highlight on top of that, obviously, people can go online. They can search for themselves what communities are out there. It's not like we have this secret pocket of communities that no one knows about. Everyone has access to these companies. But what sets us apart from, I guess I'd say, online lead companies that offers access to a list of communities is we take the time to vet these communities and their state reviews, knowing behind the scenes. We become intimate with the executive directors, the marketing directors. Those do change hands frequently. Management can change hands. So aside from the bells, the whistles, the pools, and all the fancy stuff, we kind of know the behind the scenes, and we guide and direct those families based on the care needs of their loved ones, because not all communities are the same. So that's one of the advantage of taking that I just read and how we apply it in practice. So if you would, Amy, if you would kind of discuss yours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I believe I took members shall be knowledgeable about Georgia's rules and regulations impacting senior placement decisions for personal care homes and assisted livings. I mentioned we do a lot of education. We recently have expanded into 3 different states, and I'm so proud of what we do here in Georgia to champion aging in place, because it is very different. So in Georgia, several years back, and it's been a while, but I want to say around 2014, the Georgia Senior Living Association really made a push to change and the formal licensing for every building out there, big or small, from the small little home all the way up to the big, large 120 bed assisted living, they all had the same license, a personal care home license. And there was a big push at that time due to safety regulations and fire evacuation, that if someone aged in place and became 100% bedridden, they would need to move out of the assisted living and move into a nursing home, which that level of care can be very disruptive. It can be disruptive for the resident, disruptive for the family, and may not be where they want to age in place. So there became a big push for the regulations to change. And what came out of it was a different licensing, and a license that we now call an assisted living license, which is different than the personal care home license. And that license has the same admissions criteria. Someone needs to be able to assist with their transfer and show some mobility and show some ambulation prior to going into a assisted living facility. But once they are moved in, if they do age in place, let's say they have a diagnosis of Parkinson's and becomes a 2 or 3 person transfer and needs assistance with a lift in an assisted living licensed facility, if their corporate policy also allows them to stay, they have the option and availability to stay and age in place till end of life. So understanding these nuances, I tell families, just because someone has a license doesn't mean necessarily they are doing everything that license allows. That's why it's so important to have local advisors who understand where the limits are from corporation to corporation and management group from management group, and to understand what type of license that community has for the family before they just pull into the parking lot.
Very good point. Victoria, you want to share the one that you selected?
Sure. So I first like to make sure and explain kind of what we're sharing. Mark mentioned that these are sort of, standards of practice across the members who are in the Atlanta Placement Coalition. And it's really important that we all kind of agreed that we would all hold each other accountable for operating with these standards of practice, so that we're looked at as the experts in this area of senior living placement. So one of the standards that I wanted to talk about, it basically has to do with making sure that as members we are avoiding unnecessarily relocating a client for economic benefits. So in other words, most people know that we're not compensated by the families that we serve. Our compensation comes from the vast network of providers or communities that we work with. So when we refer a client to a community, and if that client decides to move into that community pays us a referral fee. Full disclosure. And so obviously we generate our income by placing people, right? And what we wanted to do was to call out to the public at large that, at least amongst our members, we would not engage in the practice of just moving people just so that we would get more placement revenue. That we really would try to proactively work with the families, work with the senior, and work with the community to try to make sure that if there were issues that weren't being addressed, that the community would address those issues. Now, there are often good reasons why someone would move out of a community, having just moved in or having maybe moved in 6 months earlier. But our goal is to try to help mediate, any issues that may have arisen. Maybe there's just not the good communication between the community and the resident. Maybe it's just someone's just not doing their job, and we want to make sure that we are helping that resident or our client and the community sit down at the table, hash out the issues, come up with a plan, and then move forward to the extent that they are able to. If that can't happen, then certainly we will obviously jump in and help that client move to another community. But the first thing we want to do is to try to help the client and the family resolve the issue, whatever issue or issues there are that the senior is experiencing within that community. That's our goal. That we think that's the right approach to take, not only for the senior but also for our community partners. So we want it to be a win-win-win. It's got to be a win-win-win, or we walk away from the deal. But in the event it just, after every effort, it just doesn't work. This was just not a good match for the client. Then of course we would be, happy to help the family find another solution.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I think it goes along with what you've already stated. Is a lot of times there's so much adjusting that has to take place from the resident that's moving in, their challenges, their concerns. It's all new, depends on their level of care that's needed. There may be some early signs of dementia coming in, who knows? But making a point to what you're saying is, even though that's how we get paid, again, we are advocates first. So we try to go in and we don't just place you, see you later, high five, good luck. We're there with the families all along until the end. We're their advocates all along. So if there's an issue, give us a call. We can make a phone call and professionally discuss and make sure there's not an issue that needs to be addressed. And a lot of times it's not as bad as it may seem, and we can help come along and smooth that out, because the last thing we want to do is to place them somewhere else unnecessarily, because it's not about getting in another commission. That's the wrong thing to do. It'd have to be a major issue going on. So good point on that. Kelly, what's the one that you wanted to share?
Absolutely. Are knowledgeable about senior industry resources in Greater Atlanta and the state of Georgia. One thing that really sticks out to me about this standard is my own personal experience. My dad chose to stay at home and live at home the remainder of his life with my mom. And so we did not explore senior living options. But what we did do was spend a lot of time on the internet searching for resources. And not knowing anyone personally within the senior services industry, really, endless hours of research and really coming up short. So what I tell families is, what are the challenges that your loved one is facing, or you're facing as the care for your loved one? What keeps you up at night, and how can we address some of those challenges? I consider myself, along with Mark and Victoria and Amy and the rest of our coalition, subject matter experts in the senior living space, but we rely incredibly heavily on our partners that also serve the seniors in the Greater Atlanta area, and rely on their expertise. And we get to know their business. We get to know the integrity of their business, and really try to make the connection between client and solution to some of those challenges. So think everything from elder law attorneys to home care, home health, hospice, movers and move managers. So where we solve that component, that moving piece, that finding that location, I want to be able to connect families with a company that can address all of those challenges. I tell families all the time, please don't ever Google search for anything. Come to me first. Let's talk through. let's see if I have someone in my back pocket, in my toolbox, if you will, that I can connect you with, that I have vetted, I have gotten to know. We are like-minded individuals and companies. And there are some amazing, wonderful companies that serve the seniors industry. I can tell you again, just from my own personal experience, you do know what you don't know, and you don't know what is available to you out there as a loved one of an aging parent. So connecting with someone local, whether it's an advisor or an elder law attorney, it can really ease your mind with knowing that someone has your back, that knows the challenge that you're facing, and you're not just relying on a Google ad or a Facebook search or whatever. You've got somebody that you can really count on that has been vetted and will stand by you and do the work that they promise to do.
Yeah. And that's some good points. And I think it's sort of like it's anything in life, whether it's, it's a warm referral to where, regardless of it, if it's you need an AC repair at home or a plumber or whatever, and you're trying to pick and decide who to use, to have someone go, hey, I know, Frank over at so-and-so, in the call and go, hey, Amy told me that she knows you, and it's an icebreaker. So instead of sitting there looking through a list of communities, we more than likely know the marketing director, the executive director, more importantly, the activities director that's there, and how they perform and make a difference for the family.
Of the business.
Or the owner of the business. Exactly.
And I would also add, we know several families that have lived there, that we've placed there or have moved out of there. So I think, Kelly, you did a great job of describing, I think, what makes us being local the most unique. And I tell everyone all the time, when you go online, you're looking at advertising, trying to find the reality of what is going on. And it's the same thing. Someone might have had a great experience at an assisted living down the street from their church, and their mom lived there and it was the best thing ever. And you're looking now and you think, well, maybe that'll be a good place for my mom. Number one, situation and circumstances may be very different, and probably are, with both of those parents. But more importantly, that community over 5 years has probably changed tremendously. And it may not be a wonderful experience. So, part of what we do is vetting them on a regular, consistent basis. I love what you say, subject matter experts. And I don't like the word expert, but we are subject matter students, and we're constantly learning.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect segue into let's have continue some open discussion and things that you each have observed, changes needed, advice for families that are fixing to possibly do a Google search, or maybe jump in the car and ride around and go, hey, I saw this place over there, and also what drives you to do what you do. So let's kind of open that up and share some of that. And I'll kind of start with what I would like people to know is we are truly, all of us are here to help. I'm going through it with my own mom and dad. And just like you had mentioned, Kelly, and I know you each, Victoria and Amy, have probably experienced with your family, it's overwhelming. It's completely overwhelming. And it's almost like I can help other families better than I can myself and my family. I'm too close to the situation. And what I heavily advise is for a family, because there's different family dynamics. Some families get along better than others. Maybe they all live in the same state, and maybe they're scattered. You always have the one that does the most of the stuff, and those that just kind of point fingers and tell them what to do. Is to try to get the family together. And that's an advantage of doing what all of us do, is we can come in there and kind of be that mediator, to bring in that experience, to hear everybody's voice, to hear their challenges and their concerns and worries and fears, and from experience go, well, we've heard that before. Here's what we've learned. Here's what we've seen. Because we've all have been through the situation to where there's such massive resistance to even thinking about placing a loved one into there, or the person themselves going, I don't want to go, y'all are abandoning me, etc. And to see the adjustment period and then the thriving and the social aspect and the beauty of it all, and when it works the way it's supposed to work. So that's my opening thing that I like to throw out there into the mix. So whomever wants to take the next open discussion topic, fire away.
I would like to add, Mark, if I may. I can remember when I first started 3 years ago, or just approaching 3 years ago. I was so excited and green and gung ho about everything, and I said, we're going to sit around the table at Mrs. Smith's house, and we're going to say, the whole family, we're going to hold hands, and we're going to sing Kumbaya. And Mrs. Smith, we found you a great place to live, and you're going to go, and you're going to thrive. And I can tell you that has yet to happen. Most people do not dream of moving into a senior living community. In fact, and I'm sure everyone has had this experience, some will go kicking and screaming, and they'll say, well, my daughter's making me do this, or my son is making me do this. And, it's a real emotional time for families, especially the senior. It's a loss of independence. It's a close of a chapter of their lives. And I think we talked about compassion earlier. We bring compassion to the situation where you can say, Mrs. Smith, I know this is hard for you. And you may not understand specifically what it's like to move out of your home after 30, 40, or 50 years. But we empathize, and we see it day in and day out, how heartbreaking it can be for families, from the adult child side or the spouse's side, who just want so desperately for their loved one to be safe and well cared for. But you want to maintain Mrs. Smith's independence and respect her wishes. So it's a real polarizing pull, if you will, in family dynamics. So, I have yet to sit down around the table and sing Kumbaya, and I can probably tell you, I realize now, 3 years in, I will never do that. But I will keep striving for that harmony in families, and find the peace, and find the spot where everyone can be happy and thrive.
Kelly, excellent. I say everyone waits until their parents begins aging, and then they start dealing with all of these leftover issues and sibling conflict and parent issues and resentment and all of those things. I was on a tour years ago, and we were in beautiful studio apartment, and the husband was placing furniture for his mother-in-law. Like, he was visually saying, we'll put the bed here. And I noticed the wife got incredibly quiet, and she just started crying. And he kind of came over, and basically she said, I can't do it. I can't move my mom. And she had been caring for her at home. And he turned and he goes, it's either she moves in here or I'm moving in. I
move out.
or he moves in. And I looked over at the sales director and I said, let's give them a few minutes.
Yeah.
And I think some of the best training, when the pandemic hit, we're all kind of in on hold mode, and all of our advisors went and got some certifications and additional training. And the best training I ever got was biblical counseling. And I have put those skills, counseling caregivers. I knew I had been doing it before, but I really wanted to get some additional training. And that has been the thing that has been the best use for me. It's just helping families to transition, to do this transition. And sometimes, I'm sure we all have had to do this. Sometimes you really have to be the bad guy. You have to say, it's your decision to make, but my job is to make sure you understand the consequences of not making this decision, not doing something, because their lack of a decision is a decision.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Victoria?
I think one of the things that Amy touched on that I find is kind of where we show our greatest value in working with families, being local advisors, is that we walk alongside our families and our seniors. You know, people who unfortunately find themselves searching for senior living online oftentimes don't realize that they are putting their information into a portal that will, you know, will give them information, will give them results of what they're looking for. But you know, there are a lot of consequences that come with that. What they don't realize is that when you're working with strictly on online effort, you're not going to benefit from having that person that's on the ground, that lives in the community, that knows these communities intimately inside and out, and that goes with you to tour. I mean, I find that to be my greatest reward is when I am with families and I am touring those communities and I am asking questions that frankly they would never think to ask because they've not done this before. This is for most folks their first rodeo, and just kind of the I guess the feeling they have at the end where they say, gosh, you know, I'm so glad you were with us. We would never have thought to ask those questions. You really are knowledgeable about this industry, and you really helped us to understand, you know, more about the decision that we're making and what is right for our loved one. And I just think there's no value to put on having a local expert, a local advisor who really knows the ins and outs of these communities versus people just kind of going out on their own, and which, you know, some people can, you know, oftentimes have great success. But you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you might have found that was a better fit for your loved one if you had been working with a local advisor. And we don't charge families for all this knowledge and expertise, and we, you know, our services are at no cost. So there's really no downside to working with a local advantage, and lots and lots of upside to doing that.
Yeah. Couple things. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, another point that I'd love for us to discuss, since we have kind of an audience out there. We have direct caregivers that are listening, but I know that we also have a lot of leadership in the senior community listening. And, you know, we get pushback all the time. Why? I have a sales director. Why would I pay a fee and a referral fee when I can send out my sales directors and they can go and get referrals? And so I find that really interesting because I did a breakdown one time of the cost of delivering a move-in to a building. And when you factor in the time and the work and the effort, all the way from marketing online to paying that sales director to hosting events. And when they are in the building, they are dedicated to doing a tour and they have to be available to take calls. They can't always be out in the community winning and being the face of the community. So yes, their person can do marketing and win referrals. But I always say, this is what I've told regional directors, getting rid of local agencies and not paying fees is like going out and taking a sledgehammer to your front signage. You would never do that. Why not use all means necessary and available to get your census to 100%? So you budget for events, budget for referrals, budget for the signage, budget for internet marketing. And so I don't know if you all want to speak into that at all.
Oh, yeah, you are. I mean, and I have to protect my noodle. I have to make a note. I wanted to say something to add along with what Victoria mentioned in the importance of, highlighting that we do not charge for our services. And what I want families that may see this to understand is you can really trust what we're doing, that we've got our best foot forward for your behalf, but let us do our jobs for free. Because if you have a community in mind, let us know. We'll let you know what we know about it. So the point and the goal is for you to relax and focus on the stresses at hand of the realness of having to make these decisions, deal with your family, deal with your loved one. We've got you. We're going to take care of you, but let us take care of you, if that makes sense. With you, Amy, my entrepreneurial brain explodes when you started talking about that, because it drives me a little bit cuckoo. Because if any owners of any communities understand and hear this, we totally get the business side of things. Like you had stated, Amy, you're paying your marketing directors to do what they do. Let them keep doing what they do with the leads that you're developing. Maybe you have them spending some ungodly amount of time chasing the leads that are sent from some of these online agencies that bombard them with leads, but they have to go through calling them. They have to go through the fact, well, I'm probably the 15th person calling them because their names have been scattered across the ethos of the world. So I'm just another aggravation. So I've got to spend my time and resources that I'm getting from my salary to try to vet these to find out if there's a placement opportunity here. We literally are hand delivering a planned, prepped, pre-assessed. We're going, here's our pre-assessment. We understand you have to assess them yourself before you accept them. But here's A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way down to Z. Is this a good fit for you? We're interested in having them tour. We come with them on tour. All they have to do is do the tour. We have done everything basically for them, so they can keep focusing on their efforts while we're hand delivering. And they should, this is my opinion, they should be honored that we vetted them to be the choice to bring a family, because we have done our due diligence. So yes, any owners out there, like, why would you proverbial cut your nose off to spite your face? We're doing nothing but goodness here. So.
Yeah, having been a sales director in communities, my best relationships were with the local advisors. Mm-hmm. And I had to deal with online leads, and most of them were either unqualified, not appropriate for my building, or mm-hmm. I was competing with 6 or 8 other communities. Mm-hmm. And so many families get so aggravated when you are even the 3rd or 2nd or 3rd or 4th. If you've ever applied for a refinance of a mortgage and your phone starts ringing, that is what some of those families who are going online are experiencing. And they're not buying or refinancing a home. They're trying to place a dear, precious parent. So I'm very frustrated with that situation. And so when I wanted to bring that up because there is tremendous value. We share this statistic all the time. We have an 88% close ratio on first tour. And wow. So I usually then the salespeople will say, well, make us your first tour. Chances are they will be, because we have done that pre-assessment. We have vetted the properties, and we have gotten the family the best fit and saved them and that sales director a ton of time.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody else want to share anything? I'm about to throw a curveball to you ladies. So anybody else want to add something before I throw that curveball?
Go for it, Mark.
Okay. Here's the curveball.
Take your best shot, Mark.
Here we go. I personally think this will be interesting, and I hope that you ladies agree. I'm going to step off of the platform a little bit about doing what I do, which is what you guys do. And I'm going to be transparent and give a real raw example of what's going on with my family, the challenges I'm facing with my own family, the emotions behind it, because I'm able to experience it from a very deep emotional, being the son, all that stuff, and how you would address it and help me with it, and how it may help others that I know are going through what I'm going through. Mom and dad, mom's 92, dad's 93, mom's home with hospice. Mom was, we've already, quote unquote, said our goodbyes 3 times this year. And God's ways are not our ways. I don't know what God's up to or doing, but mom is continuing to live. And it's showing some more challenging things that she's coming up with because she's on morphine now. I reluctantly, personally, was resistant to the lorazepam and the stuff that they want to give to calm them down. It is what it is. I have actually had a heavy discussion with my family of realizing that it would be a better thing to place mom and dad, and for several reasons. Dad's social life is crumbling. His day in and day out life is getting up and sitting there and staring at mom. Mom's back to being ambulatory. You know, you go in there and she's sitting next to him on the sofa. She's showing some confusion, but she's high all the time. I mean, you know what I mean? She's on morphine, but she could continue like this for Lord knows how long. And so the challenge I've been having, we've actually, me and my father and my sisters went to the community of choice that I thought would be the best fit, had a meal there. So dad's best friend lives there, an independent community. So he's got his best friend there. And mom and dad have long-term care insurance. They quote unquote did it right. And mom's policy is activated. Dad's is not. And we're paying for 24-hour care. And we're getting a deal. We're getting $20 an hour for actual real retired nurses. That's a deal, believe it or not. Unlike 28 to 35 for CNAs. So we're getting legit for real nurses that are doing this privately now that they retired. After insurance, mom and dad are coming out of pocket $9,000, $10,000 a month. On one hand, I'm thankful and realize that I'm thankful my mom and dad planned, prepared, sacrificed, saved, did all those things necessary to be able to have this money sitting there. But I'm seeing here, watching, this could go on for quite some time. And I think they're going into their money too heavily too soon. Because if they do outlive it and it gets to a point that they end up needing skilled nursing, that's $8,000 to $10,000 per person. So even if both of their policies were activated and they both needed skilled nursing, there's going to be coming out of pocket $10,000 a month because the maximum is $5,100 a month the policies pay. So here's where I'm at. It's driving me bonkers as a son. It's driving me bonkers to where I have the same concern. So now let's flip the script, and I'm coming to you ladies for help from my family. And I'm going, Dad doesn't want to go. He knows she needs to go. Dad's overwhelmed. The money's flying out the window. If they keep going, they're going to have to go into some assets and pay taxes, penalties, all those things. My sisters, along with me, are doing the helicopter parenting for our kids, going, Mom needs somebody there 24 hours. I'm going, these communities have people far worse than mom living there. Mm-hmm. They're able to handle it. We've got to psychologically let go of the fact that there's no one sitting there. What if? Because out of a 12-hour shift, they may be needed 2 to 3 hours of that 12 hours. The rest of the time, it's being there, bored, on their phone, doing whatever they do. It's not their fault, right? So I know I'm rambling off, but this is so real and deep, and to where, how do you get a family to realize that I know no one's going to be there sitting in that room 24/7 in case mom gets up or whatever. And I know it may take upwards of 6 minutes if they yank the cord or whatever. But I'm sitting here like, wouldn't there be a better social life? Hey, Mr. and Miss Little, let's go down to the, and join everybody for a meal. Hey, let's go outside and sit for a while. So what would your advice be to me as a client in my family?
Well, I'll start. They worked hard, they made good decisions, and they have the resources to continue doing what they're doing right now. They're in their 90s, and you could make the argument that there's more now with in-home services to manage, but even after a move, there's a lot that you and your sister are still going to manage. I do appreciate the fact that they probably want to stay together. That's what brings them quality of life. And some of the bells and whistles that communities offers, it just may not be at this season in their life what they really would benefit from. I think if your mom passed and she was on that track and path to pass quicker, became not communicative, and that would be a different story. That yes, your dad definitely. We always talk about the 7 dimensions of wellness. It's kind of a cornerstone of every individual. We're all created with different areas of our being and our soul and our bodies that need to be addressed. But I think your dad being of sound mind and making this decision, if he's got all of the information, Mark, probably what I'm going to say to you is I would try to honor that. Mm. And it may not be what you expected me to say. I mean, I can spin it and tell you all the benefits of community.
No, I honestly appreciate it, and I hope I haven't thrown things off kilter. I just think it's we're all being ourselves, right? And we're all trying to let the world see what we do is, that's why it's been hard. And your advice is so appreciated because I'm too close to the situation.
Yeah. Right. And I can appreciate that you are too close, but yes, I mean, I have a father-in-law who lives independently, and every time we go to the neurologist looks at me and goes, I can't believe he's still living by himself. He's doing well, and that's his wish and that's his desire. Would there be less for us kids to be doing? Certainly, if he was in a community, but it's not the right time. And so we're trying ultimately. Now, I always say this, if, there's cognitive impairment involved, if they are not able to be in a position to make the best decision for themselves, and they're they're at risk for injury or harm, then we do have to kind of step in and help make those decisions. But I think ultimately, I would try to honor his wishes.
Yeah, I'm just terrified of them outliving the money and going to the place no one wants to go, which is you know what I mean. So
and I would fully make sure your dad understands all of those elements.
And I don't think he's fully understanding just the consequences of what's going on, because he's not handling the finances anymore.
Yeah, I have a grandmother who's 102, who's living in independent living, who needed assisted living a long time ago. And there's 4 brothers involved, and they called me again, they were both trying to get me on both sides of the camp. One was let her live there, and I said, what is she communicating? And she had the resources and has the resources to continue with in-home care in her apartment. I'm like, at 102, leave her alone.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I think too, I would just like to add, amen. I am in agreement with you. I think, people are allowed to make choices as long as there is not a diagnosis of cognitive impairment or signs of cognitive impairment. If you can present all of the information to him and he makes that choice, then that is his choice. I often remind families, how many times did our parents let us make a choice in our own lives that they may have made differently, but they chose to let us be individuals and trust that we were making the best choice for our life, and that's what they did as parents. And I think sometimes we forget that these individuals are people with desires and goals, and really deserve the respect of being able to make that choice. I can empathize with you, Mark, because as we sit and have the same conversation with my own mother now, who turns 81 today, as a matter of fact. And she says she's not leaving her home. And, we just lived the exact same situation that many have with my dad. And I think, like, were you not there? Did you not see what we went through? But, at the end of the day, it is us as children and professionals to, respect what their wishes are.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts before we sign off here? Anybody?
Well, I will just say I agree with both Amy and Kelly's comments in terms of your parents and respecting their wishes. And, sometimes it's hard for us as adult children because we can see the forest for the trees, and maybe they can't, but they have a right as long as they're not cognitively impaired, or there aren't any safety issues. So if they're falling, if mom's falling or dad's falling on a regular basis, or it's multiple trips to the ER because of falls, or the cognitive issues are such that they're starting to forget to take their meds or to eat and things like that. So safety has to be number one, the number one driver. But if those issues are not present, and it's just, well, I think they're going to run out of money. Not that that's not important and that's not a concern, but we don't know how long they're going to live. And so if they're happier and safe living in their own home, and they can afford to have in-home care for those things to help them with things that they can't do for themselves anymore, I would say let them stay where they are, and keep an eye on the funds, and keep them updated as much
Mark,
as possible.
I was just going to give you one little nugget too that might help you not be super frustrated with the three of us.
No, I'm really taking this in.
Here's one more little nugget. Go back over all the finances with your dad in a simplistic way. Have it written out in advance. Like here's how much is in savings. Here's the assets. Here's how much you're running through it each month. Here's how many years. And maybe it might even help you to look at that, like, again, to revisit how long those resources are going to last. And I always tell families, set a red light. So set a yellow light and a red light. And for everyone, it looks different. I say for men who are determined to stay at home, love the comfort of their home, don't care about anything ever moving. The moment that they have to give up driving is a red light for them. The moment their wife isn't cooking for them can be a red light. So maybe see if there's, under any circumstances, your dad would consider, and it might be after mom passes, I might consider.
Yeah, he would go in a heartbeat if mom passed. But
yeah.
I'm sitting here just taking all this in. I know this was a curveball and y'all threw a knuckleball back, and I love it because I've been so close to the situation that I just turned 60. So for, I guess, 55 of those years, I was cognitive of who, of mom and dad as people, and seeing who they were, what they've done, how frugal they've been, how much they've accomplished, all those things. And now watching dad not even be able to write a check, and, of course, had to take his license away. It's seeing them suffering, the lack of social side of things, the fear of going into a place that we've all toured and seen and going, I would not want my dog to be here. So there's those emotions behind it, but I love it. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you took the time to go through this discussion with me. But if anybody else doesn't have anything to say, I don't want to cut that off. Is anybody good? I want to thank each of you for taking the time to do this together. I look forward. So I guess for future shows, there's other members of the coalition that want to give a fair opportunity to come on here and do like we've done today. I would hope and desire that this becomes something that can continue on, that we can bring awareness and get more content out there to collectively make a difference for people that are going through stuff like myself. Then we can all share those. I like to maybe do a series called Placement Stories one day together that we can share without mentioning names. Some of those success stories that went from the most difficult challenge to, even though Kelly didn't sing Kumbaya with them, it did end up being a Kumbaya moment, right? So we actually saw the blessings of it all. So with that said, thanks to each and every one of you. I wish you a fantastic week. Thanks for being who you are, and thank you each for doing what you do, because if it wasn't for each of you, there's a lot of families that would not be living the lives that they're living. And Sonia Gunter, thanks for watching, Sonia. And I think you mentioned Kelly's name when we had our show together, Sonia. Good luck to you and all you're doing, Sonia. But anyway, thank you, ladies. We'll see you next time. And until then, everybody have a good day and God bless.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.